perfect. Looks like I just found Amit. Yeah. Hi, Amit.
Hello, Sabrina. Hi, Aston.
Hey, Amit.
All right, and there's Ratisha.
Gang's all here.
Okay, well, let's kick it off for all of the community who has joined us so far. Welcome. I'm really excited to have not one, not two, but 4 amazing presenters from our PM and PMM teams, and they are going to talk about the CloudHub 2.0 upgrade tool. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to them. As a reminder, the Q&A tab has just begun. Please ask any questions you have during the presentation here so that it's easy for our moderators and presenters to answer and ensure that we get to everyone's questions. And for chat, please keep that to just comments. Sometimes questions do get lost in chat. And with that, I will be in the background. And over to you, Aston.
Fabulous. Thanks so much, Sabrina. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My name's Aston Whiteley. I'm joined, Tanvir, I didn't put your last name in, I apologize. But my name's Aston Whiteley. I'm joined by Amit, Tanvir, and Ratisha for this session today. And in today's session, the headline is the CloudHub upgrade tool, but I've kind of done the old switcheroo on you all because you have a captive audience. We also have some important updates around our support structure and Java 8 end of life. So I'm going to actually front load and talk about that just because I have you all. But then we'll get onto the good stuff with CloudHub 2.0, talk about some of the benefits of CloudHub, see the upgrade tool. Ratisha's going to go through it, and then Tan's going to give us a great demo. We'll talk a little bit and finish on the roadmap, and then have an open Q&A for you all. So I hope you enjoy it. And first things first, as I said, I'm going to switch over to Amit, who's going to give us a brief update on the support structure. So just tell me when you want me to advance the slides, Amit.
Yeah, sure, Ashton. We can go to the next slide. Yeah. So this is something, just kind of a refresher on the Mule release cadence. Last October, we had introduced the 3 times a year release cadence aligned with the Salesforce release strategy. So we introduced 2 new channels. One was called the LTS, the long-term support, and the second was the Edge channel. The LTS channel was essentially for customers who wanted a longer window for longer application maintenance. And the Edge channel was to receive more the latest and faster innovation that we are bringing. So in terms of schedules, the LTS is 18 months of standard support and 6 months of extended support, while the Edge is 5 months of standard and 3 months of extended. So we made some tweaks to this policy over the year. So what I'm just stating now is effective October 2024, which means it's applicable for Mule 4.6 LTS and going forward, as well as for Mule 4.8 Edge and going forward. But this is the latest, I would say, release cadence that we have. And so LTS we release once a year every February. Edge is released 3 times a year in February, June, and October. And in terms of, we also introduce what we call the auto minor upgrade, which means at the end of standard support, we will be able to, on our cloud environments, we will be able to upgrade your applications between Mule minor versions. Yeah, Ashton, we can proceed. Yeah, so visually, this looks like what you see on the screen. So if you see the row for 4.6 LTS, you see 18 months of standard support, the dark red color. And then we have extended support following that. And what this policy, the change in the policy has introduced is that now we have more overlap between 2 versions. So if you see 4.6 LTS and if you see 4.9 LTS, you will see that they have overlap of 6 months for their standard support. This was a consistent feedback we had got from customers, from the community as well. We made these changes. So that's pretty much it about the release cadence. we can move to Java. So um, Justin, you can just click next. So so this is over the last year, starting in February, we started moving towards Java 17. And this is not just MuleSoft, but the industry in general has been moving towards Java 17. As you see some of those numbers, there's been a 300% growth between 2023 and 24. 35% of applications today are built on Java 17. And on the other side, there has been a decline on Java 8. A lot of the third-party libraries, uh, earlier, actually 2 months back, Spring dropped support for Java 8. Also, a lot of the OpenJDK distributions are dropping support for Java 8. So even MuleSoft and Salesforce need to like move to this new change that is happening on the Java lifecycle. Yeah, Ashton, we can. Yeah. So what this means is that with the introduction of Mule 4.6 in February of earlier this year, it supports Java 8, 11, and 17. And we we introduced that so that customers can start upgrading. So essentially, customers need to do three things. They need to upgrade their apps. They need to start also upgrade their custom connectors, and then they need to upgrade their proxies and policies. So as I was saying, we introduced in February Mule 4.6, which supports Java 8 and 17. A few months later, we also introduced a new version of Studio, which provides all the tooling so that customers can upgrade their apps to Java 17 using our Anypoint compatible Java 17 connector. So just of a few days back, all Anypoint connectors are now Java 17 compatible. And so customers can use these to upgrade their apps. An important milestone is that the next LTS runtime, which is Mule 4.9, which will be released in February of 2025, will support only Java 17, which also means that uh, basically we have this window between uh, February of 2024 to February of 2026, during which we will support Java 8, and then after that we will no longer support Java 8. So in this window, customers should look to upgrade their applications. And then on the API side, we customers can update their API instances with our Java 17 compatible Mule gateway policies. These are all these policies are Java 17 compatible, and also they can do the same for their own custom policies and proxies. Yeah, this is kind of the roadmap that customers can take to go through this process. And today we have around 50,000 plus applications on Java 17. Aston. Yeah, I pass it back to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. Yeah, thanks so much, Amit, for that. Just wanted to include that for you all because it's an important update, like a PSA. So keep that in mind. We'll probably have maybe a dedicated session about this in the future as well. But yeah, good to know. Thank you, Amit, for running us through that. But now to the main event, CloudHub 2. So yeah, I'm going to kick things off just talking a little bit about the kind of state of CloudHub 2 and the benefits.
Aston, I think you went back on mute.
Very strange. I don't know how that happened. Sorry about that. So yeah, just talking about the state of CloudHub and the we're all very familiar with CloudHub 1. CloudHub 2 is the latest iteration built on Kubernetes, very much the main event and what we're focusing on. CloudHub 1 isn't going to be around forever. It is, of course, a lot of our customers are still on CloudHub 1, but we're in the process right now of encouraging everyone to make the transition to CloudHub 2. The upgrade tool, which we're going to put and talk about in a little bit, is a part of that, of course, and we'll see that in action in a moment. One sec. I am going to. Okay, I'm not going on mute. What are some other benefits of Cloud 2.0? So of course, it's a much faster and efficient deployment platform with scalability, and it's easy to configure. It's built on Kubernetes, which is the main core functional difference between CloudHub 1. We get all of the benefits of that Kubernetes and containerized architecture. So it's very much a faster and evolved platform in that regard when compared to CloudHub 1. It's also more secure. We've added a lot more controls, a lot more tools, things around RBAC and SSH, a lot more security and user control around the security features of the deployment platform. Of course, there's containerization. Again, you're going to see that as a running theme throughout everything that I'm saying. The Kubernetes aspect of it is very much a factor in all of the different benefits, and security is no different. And then finally, I'd also just talk about the innovations that are on CloudHub 2.0. Some of the features we've released recently, such as horizontal auto-scaling, all of the latest advanced monitoring things like open telemetry-based telemetry exporter, distributed tracing, etc. These are only available on CloudHub 2. And in fact, what we're saying is, this is something we're happy to share. All of our innovation and engineering resources focused in CloudHub 2. It's not going to CloudHub 1. A lot of these features are only available again because of the Kubernetes architecture, and we're part of that ecosystem, expanding on it, and that is why all the innovation, all these new features are coming only to CloudHub 2 and RTF as well, which CloudHub 2 is built on. All these new features, you can be rest assured with CloudHub 2, you're going to be getting the new features first. CloudHub 2 is always our first port of call with all the new features across the Anypoint platform. And again, as we're part of that Kubernetes ecosystem, we're leveraging it. We're getting a lot of value from building and fleshing out the features based on Kubernetes as well. So I just wanted to run through the, the pitch, as it were, for CloudHub 2, make the case. And now I'm going to hand over to Ritisha, who's going to go through the focus of today, which is the upgrade tool, which is another great reason why you should transition over to CloudHub 2 right now as well. So Ritisha, take it away.
Thanks, Aston. Hey everyone, I'm Ritisha. I'm the product manager for CloudHub 2.0. Really excited to be joining you all and giving you a sneak peek, a preview into what we are considering as part of our upgrade tooling to enable you to have an easy transition from CloudHub 1 to CloudHub 2. A quick refresher on some terminology changes, right? As we're moving from CloudHub 1 to CloudHub 2, we go from a VM-based to a containerized architecture, like Aston called out. So what we used to call dedicated VPCs are now called private spaces. It's analogous in function, right? A private space is essentially a virtual private isolated logical space in CloudHub 2.0 where you can run your apps. You can create multiple private spaces across different regions. We also have a concept of a shared space, which is equivalent to the shared VPC that you have in CloudHub 1.0. The second terminology change is what we used to call workers. You deploy multiple instances of your application. Each instance is called a worker, right? In CloudHub 1, in CloudHub 2.0, we use the term replica. And lastly, in CloudHub 1, you used to have dedicated load balancers that you need to create, set up, and operate by yourself. In case of CloudHub 2.0, it's replaced by the ingress controller, which comes out of the box with every private space. With that, let me jump into what we're considering for the migration tooling, what kind of support we're planning to provide. Aston, next slide. So actually, we've already had a good chunk of our customers who've made the transition, many in the process of making the transition. You can do the transition completely by yourself with or without the upgrade tooling. So what we want to do is, we recognize that every customer's upgrade journey may look very different depending on what combination of features they're using, how the environments have been configured, how much custom configuration we have in there. So our upgrade tooling that we're planning to launch is aimed at helping to catalyze our customer upgrade journeys. But as a customer, you could choose a combination of either self-service migration, which we've had some customers do. They've taken this opportunity to re-architect, reorganize how they've deployed when they move into CloudHub 2.0, at which point you can completely have it self-managed. You can use our upgrade tooling, or it could be a combination of both, right? You can augment our upgrade tooling with some additional customizations that you may want to do, leverage services, partners. It's a combination. I will go into what kind of upgrade tooling we are trying to help with. Next slide, Aston. Yeah, so when we are thinking about the upgrade journey, right, there are two main phases in the transition. The first part is focused on the infra team, right, the platform team, the network admin persona, who are responsible to manage what was the dedicated VPCs, potentially DLBs in CloudHub 1.0. And in CloudHub 2.0, this will be the team that will have to set up the private space. If there are any network connections that go out to your external systems, on-prem systems, either VPNs, transit gateway, this would be the team that needs to do that setup. So the first phase is focused on VPC to private space upgrade tooling. And the second phase is application upgrades, right? This is focused more on the application developer persona. And this part of the journey would be where you create equivalent apps for each app in CloudHub 1, you create an equivalent app in CloudHub 2.0 and find a way to transition traffic from CloudHub 1.0 to CloudHub 2.0. Those are the two main phases we are going after. And the reason we're going after this is that's the feedback that we've heard from a lot of our customers, right? The first phase, which is the network infrastructure setup, we've heard that can be a lengthy process. Several times you need to go and ask your security and compliance team, for reviews of your architecture, set up new network connections, acquire new IP space. We want to eliminate all of that toil. If you do not plan to do a re-architecture when you go into CloudHub 2.0, the upgrade tooling will enable you to sort of lift and shift the same configuration into CloudHub 2. That's the first phase that we're actively working on. Second phase is more of this is our vision of what we want to do. Once you upgrade your VPC into a private space, what we want to enable you to do is for every application in CloudHub 1, you can create an equivalent app in CloudHub 2, link the two apps, and then we will enable you to divert incremental percentages of your traffic to CloudHub 2, so you can test your application, make sure that your network configurations are accurate for that application, it's hitting the right URL. And the main thing is we want to enable you to carry over any of your CloudHub 1 URLs into CloudHub 2, because that's another piece of feedback we've received from customers that involves change management, potentially going out and changing all of your consumers to leverage a different URL. If you don't front your VPCs with your own DNS Route 53, then this approach will essentially enable you to carry over the URLs. That's the second phase that we're considering. Next slide. Yeah, this is an example of how in the past, like one of our customers who did a self-service migration, of how they approached the migration in a staggered manner. They first got introduced to CloudHub 2, they set up their lab environment, they got security approvals, and then they went on to start deploying their first set of applications. And we see that there is around a 2 to 3 month process where these approvals need to happen, where you need to go and get your architecture reviewed. That is what we plan to avoid with the VPC to private space upgrade tooling, right? That's the problem statement we're going after. And with that, let me jump into what the VPC to private space experience looks like. Aston, next slide. Yeah, so mainly the VPC to private space, I'll also go into a deeper look. I don't know if this is a very clear visual for you. We'll have more deeper slides on this, but it mainly comprises of 3 phases, the VPC to private space upgrade tooling. The first part is you learn about the experience, right? So upfront, you discover CloudHub 2.0, you understand the benefits. There's a new UI page. We're also going to be publishing a set of APIs if you want to do it through APIs. So you learn about CloudHub 2, you learn about the upgrade steps, and you learn about eligibility. If your VPC is eligible to be carried over to CloudHub 2.0, or if it needs some prerequisite, configuration changes before it can become eligible. So then the second step is we enable you to prepare. So we give you information on when the VPC is eligible, or we might just give you some warnings that maybe you will be able to create a private space out of this, but all of your configurations may not necessarily be carried over. That's the second phase. And the last phase is where you actually upgrade. So once you click the upgrade button, we clone the configuration, we create an equivalent private space, and the benefit is we carry over all of the network connections that you may have, any transit gateway or VPN connections, we carry that over into the private space. Throughout the entire journey, our design principles is to give you the most control. So you will be able to track progress at any point of time, like when the private space is getting created. Today, even on CloudHub 2, when you're creating a private space, it can take around 30 minutes for the private space to successfully get created. So in that process, if you determine that, okay, you want to make some changes and you want to abort, then you can always abort the upgrade. Even after you set up the private space, our recommendation is you test your network traffic. If you're not comfortable with how it has been set up, you can delete the private space. That just takes you back to your VPC, and then you can restart the upgrade journey when you want to. However, once you upgrade, thereafter, we encourage you to make all your network changes, any configuration changes on CloudHub 2, right, to avoid configuration drift. So with that, let me take a deeper, I'll walk you through each of these three phases. Okay. Let me first, Aston, the next slide. A quick preview of the next stage as well. So once you upgrade the VPC to the private space, the application upgrade that we are envisioning, this is going to be phase 2, right? But in this phase, we are considering 3 stages again. First will be for every CloudHub 1 app, you create a CloudHub 2 app. Then you can incrementally switch your traffic. Either you can do completely customer managed, you can switch the DNS to point to CloudHub 2, or you can use our upgrade tooling where you carry over vanity URLs. We will enable you to incrementally switch percentages of traffic. And finally, once you have moved all your applications in the VPC, you can delete your applications. And after all applications are moved, you delete the DLBs and VPCs, and then your upgrade is essentially complete. That's the second phase. Next slide. Yeah. Let me walk you through the phases of the VPC to private space upgrade journey. And after this, we have Tanveer joining us with an exciting demo as well. So the first part, like I mentioned, you learn about CloudHub 2 benefits. And I said you can prepare, right, with any prerequisite steps. And this is where we warn you, for example, your CloudHub 1 dedicated VPC may not be eligible for an upgrade if it is using deprecated availability zones, or if it is using legacy VPN, or if it does not have sufficient IP space. We require that it has at least, we will be documenting this, around 100 IPs remaining for you to start the upgrade, converting the VPC to a private space. So if it does not have sufficient IP space, we mark it ineligible. And then you can go and either free up the IP space. If you're using legacy VPN, you can transition over into a supported network connection, and then your VPC becomes eligible. So you can take care of the prerequisite steps. Here, we also warn you of some differences between CloudHub 1 VPC and CloudHub 2 private space. For example, in CloudHub 1, some customers may be using either peering or direct connect by reaching out to our support and having that manually configured. CloudHub 2.0 supports transit gateway and VPN. We don't support direct connect or peering. So for those, we will give you a warning that you need to transition over before you upgrade, because if not, after you upgrade, you will not be able to manage your connections through support anymore. So that's the first part of learn and prepare. Next slide, Aston. Yeah, and the next part is where we actually do the infra and the network upgrade. So first part, what we will do is we will clone all of your VPC configuration into the private space. So we will present to you side by side how the configuration looks, right? If you're, and then you will also be able to go and specify the name of your private space. Thereafter, if your VPC has any network connections, right? If it has a VPN or transit gateway network connection, it gets carried over. What we essentially do is we create the private space within the same VPC. So you don't have to re-establish your network connections. It gets carried over. So you avoid the 2 to 3 month toil. And like I mentioned, you can always abort or cancel your upgrade and restart. However, once you upgrade, your CloudHub 1 VPC gets locked. What does this mean, right? It's rest assured that we will allow you to continue to deploy new applications, manage your existing applications in CloudHub 1. So all of your application management can continue to happen. However, any network configuration changes. So for example, if you want to change the business group associated with your VPC or the environments associated with your VPC, then that's where we will lock your VPC from further changes. You can make the same changes on the private space, the newly upgraded private space, and that reflects or that gets applied to applications in your VPC as well. This is primarily to encourage you to start using the new concepts in CloudHub 2.0 and to avoid any configuration drift, at which point it becomes tricky to have the two in sync. The one thing that we do not lock, though, is firewall rules, right? We know that it's configured slightly differently on CloudHub 1.0, and we leave that to you. We do our best effort copy of the firewall rules into the private space. Thereafter, you can tweak the two by yourself, or we would encourage you to keep it consistent. Next slide, Aston. So this is the first phase that we're very focused on launching very soon. Tanvir will also be doing a demo of that. Now, the next phase comes application migration. This is a sneak peek at what we're planning to deliver. So here, one approach is you can completely do this, manage it by yourself, right? You update your CI/CD pipelines to deploy applications into CloudHub 2.0. You can test it directly by using the CloudHub 2 endpoints that get provisioned. And then, you can do a DNS switch to move into CloudHub 2.0 and, clean your apps thereafter. What we plan to enable you to do is also when you create a CloudHub 2 app, you can link it to a CloudHub 1 app. So you start off from a CloudHub 1 app, click on the upgrade button. It will take you to the deployment screen for a new app in CloudHub 2, but we maintain the metadata that these two apps are linked, and that enables us to help you incrementally switch the traffic. So if you're using a DLB or if you're using the SLB, then we enable you to divert traffic between CloudHub 1 to CloudHub 2 incrementally. So you can start with 10-20% of your traffic to CloudHub 2 application. Make sure that all of your ingress configurations, your network configurations, your application is configured properly. And then once you're comfortable, next slide, Aston. Yeah, this is the part that I was talking about, right? You can you can set the percentage of traffic that goes to CloudHub 2.0. Once you're comfortable, you can change the percentage to 100%. You will have all your traffic going into CloudHub 2.0, after which point you can delete your CloudHub 1 app. Then essentially you finish the migration of that particular application. And this enables the platform team to sort of decouple, enable every business group to manage their own upgrades on a per application basis. And once all applications have been moved, 100% traffic diverted to CloudHub 2, then the platform team can thereafter, Aston, next slide. Thereafter, the platform team can complete the upgrade, wherein you can go into the VPC, mark your upgrade as completed after you've deleted the CloudHub 1 app and DLBs. Then we will clean up any additional resources and you would have essentially finished your upgrade. Why is it important to do this step? Because if not, then you're consuming double the entitlements, right? You're using twice the number of vCores, twice the number of private space, network connection entitlements. So you can work with your account team to determine your period of migration and thereafter clean up and then go back to as many entitlements as you need, but just on CloudHub 2.0. That was the preview of the journey. And with that, I think next I'm going to hand it over to Tanvir, the most exciting part of today. He'll actually be doing a quick demo of what the experience looks like on our platform for the first phase, which is VPC to private space. Handing it off to you, Tanvir.
You're on mute, Tan. Oh, you got it.
Thanks. Yeah. Hey, good morning, everyone again, right? So thank you for the introduction, right? So this is what experience you will see, right? Once this is enabled, this is what you will see, right? As you can see on the top, right? It's that upgrade is now available. And you can see there is a listed VPC, but deliberately I created that VPC with small number of, maybe with a smaller CIDR block, right? So that doesn't have enough IP addresses to be migrated, right? So this should not be able to migrate as well, right? Or upgrade because it's not eligible. And why it's not eligible? Because it doesn't have sufficient number of IP addresses. So this is basically if you already have a VPC, right, and you have deployed application and you have DLBs which are consuming IP addresses. So if you don't have the threshold of IP addresses, it will not let you upgrade that. Then you can do is go and manually create private space and then migrate your applications, right? So this is one of the check as well. Looking at some other scenarios, right? So if I move to another business group, so in this, I have a private space. I already have a VPC, but I don't have any new VPC entitlements left, right? As you can see, there is no VPC entitlements available for him, but I have a big enough VPC, right, with quite a big IP range over here. So it is eligible in that sense. But when you create a private space, it requires another network entitlement for VPC, right? So that's what it is. But we will still allow you to go through with the upgrade, and you can go and start the upgrade process and upgrade now. It will go and create the upgrade. As you can see, it is giving all the details about it, and I can go and complete my upgrade journey, right? But it will consume additional VPC entitlement, and that would show up as overused in your environment, right? If you have entitlement to only one and you still did the migration, it will show that you have used one and you are overusing one by one as well, right? So you can work with your account team, right, to accommodate for that it goes through that way. Another scenario is when you have a fully configured network environment, right? That you have load balancers, you have transit gateway or VPN attached to it. Then how would be that experience, right? So it would be again same thing, right? So I have a VPC over here, which is attached to a transit gateway. As you can see that it is attached, transit gateway is attached to that VPN. It has got the transit gateway is also attached to another VPC, which is hosting my other assets. For example, my database is running in that VPC, which I want to connect from my private spaces or a VPC. All that configuration is already done, right? So this again will do, as Ritisha mentioned, right? It will take all the network configuration. We will take all the things that you have provided and do a in-place upgrade, right? So we are not going to ask you to provision a new set of IP addresses or create a new CIDR block, get approval from your network and do that, right? You can just do a in-place upgrade, right? So if you go and do that and click on upgrade now, this will take care of all those things, right? Because in the private, in the VPC, there is a transit gateway attachment. It will do the same transit gateway attachment in the private space as well. And it will just ask you to give the name of private space. And once you do that, it will go and take you to the experience of what Ritisha was also showing in the slides, right? So it will go and create that kind of experience to do that private space upgrade. So once this takes time, right? Because this runs and go and start provisioning things in the background. So what I'll do is I'll cancel the upgrade over here, and I'll go to the already created. I've already done one private space, one VPC migration to the private space over here, and I'll just show you that one, right? So as you can see, once it's migrated, it will show that there is a linked private space to this VPC as well. And if I go to my private spaces, I can see the private space over here as well, right? Where I can go and start deploying my application. It automatically created my transit gateway attachment. I didn't have to do any reconfiguration of transit gateway or approving the transit gateway on the AWS transit gateway side that this new attachment is coming in, because it's running in the same VPC. It's already was there, right? That approval. And I can now go and start deploying my applications on that, right? So for example, I had, before I did the migration, I have my network configured and I was running applications on that, right? So I can go and test my applications as well. So if I look into this network tool, and let me connect to my database, right? Test whether it is connecting to database. So this is connecting to my database from the old. This is connecting from the VPC, right? And I can do the same connectivity from the private spaces as well, right? So this will take you the whole experience of the connectivity as well. So if I go back, and I think I put the wrong IP address or something, because there's a space in front of that, and run it, it is not able to resolve. Maybe the server is down or something, but ultimately it will be able to connect to all the assets that are attached to that transit gateway, right? So it is taking care of all the network configuration that has been done on the VPC and translating them to private spaces as well. So this is, once the private space is created, now you can go and start deploying your application onto that newly created private space as well. And then it would be all your applications. Either you can manually deploy them, or once the upgrade, the migration of applications available, then you can do the traffic switching of the applications as well. That was the quick demo, right? So over to you, Ritisha.
Thanks, Tanveer. Great to see it actually in motion. Aston, do you want to take over the presentation again?
Already on it. And
Okay.
yeah, thanks, Tanveer. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that demo.
Yeah, needless to say, I think in this entire deck, even the application upgrade phase, the forward-looking statement applies. But I also want to quickly give you a sneak peek into what we're thinking of from a roadmap standpoint, because like Aston mentioned, CloudHub 2.0 is our future-proof solution. That's where most of our innovation is going in. Aston, if you want to go into the next slide. Yeah, so currently we're actively working on launching the VPC to private space upgrade tooling. Thereafter, like I mentioned, the next part of the roadmap is application upgrade tooling. So we want to enable you to gradually switch traffic over. That's the second phase. They're completely decoupled, so you can do the app upgrades by yourself as well. However, if you want to leverage the incremental traffic switch option, then the application upgrade tooling is on our roadmap. Thereafter, in CloudHub 2.0 today, we enable you to configure like path rewrite, but it is a common path rewrite across all the endpoints that you have. And what we've heard from some of our customers is at the DLB, you could potentially have different URL mapping rules per endpoint. So we will enable you to have multiple path rewrites. So one path rewrite per endpoint. So that way it's easier for you to lift and shift your applications without having to, sort of break those applications or change the endpoints. Third, this is actually a very highly requested feature. Today, you can have vanity domains, but for your external endpoints in CloudHub 2, it's not an internal endpoint. But in CloudHub 1, some customers configure like one external DLB and one internal DLB. And if it's an internal DLB, you could have your own vanity domain for that internal endpoint. We want to enable that on CloudHub 2. So you will be able to mark an endpoint as an internal endpoint, and then you will be able to configure vanity domains for those internal endpoints. Apart from that, today we have Flex Gateway, right, to manage both Mule and non-Mule APIs. And Flex is deployed in like a standalone manner today. We're going to be supporting Managed Flex Gateway in CloudHub 2.0. If you're using Anypoint Partner Manager is also going to be adding support on CloudHub 2.0. And lastly, I think earlier this year, you might have seen that we've launched a lot of goodness around our monitoring capabilities with CloudHub 2.0. We've launched telemetry exporter for tracing, for distributed tracing, and it's currently at 10% sampling rate. We are looking at enabling configurable sampling of greater than 10% for any traffic, for traces generated from CloudHub 2 applications. Yeah, this is a sneak peek at our roadmap. Beyond that, want to quickly just show you some of our recently delivered innovations. So like I mentioned, we have some advanced monitoring features that we launched earlier this year. There's distributed tracing in CloudHub 2.0. It's a beta feature available. It's a public beta. We have telemetry exporter for open telemetry based traces in CloudHub 2.0. Also, if you're on our new pricing and packaging, which is usage based pricing, in that pricing and packaging, you get performant CPU-based horizontal pod auto-scaling in CloudHub 2.0. So you are able to scale horizontally in a matter of a couple of minutes to meet surges in demand. Other than that, for our healthcare customers, the third one was a highly requested feature, support for non-HTTP traffic. And in CloudHub 2.0, unlike CloudHub 1, you can also have egress controls, right? Not just ingress. So we added support for domain-based egress controls. I think this one has, in fact, a blog from Tanveer on this one. And then lastly, we added a couple. These are more recent innovations, the last 4 in the last 6 months. First is infra upgrades. We do monthly infra upgrades for your CloudHub 2 private spaces. However, you have the flexibility to opt in for an early infra upgrade, and you can schedule it. So if you, for example, instead of the 3rd week of the month where we do it, if you want to have some planned potential downtime earlier in the month, you want to front load it, you can schedule it on a recurring basis. If you're using Maven, we've added support for Exchange snapshots. So you don't have to create new versions on Exchange for single line changes in your sandbox environments during your dev and test phases of your SDLC. You can simply override the application, redeploy, it will pull the latest binaries. Support for up to 16 replicas for our Titanium and Integration Advanced customers. On CloudHub 2.0, you can go up to 16 replicas. So far, we only had support for up to 8 replicas in both CloudHub 1 and CloudHub 2. Now we've added support for up to 16 replicas. And this works with our horizontal pod auto-scaling as well. And lastly, MDC logging support. So you can enrich your logs with more context for Mule applications deployed in CloudHub 2.0, and you can visualize that enriched context through anypoint monitoring. These are some of the recently delivered innovations in CloudHub 2.0 that you can leverage starting now. With that's actually all the content I had. Yeah, Aston, handing it back to you. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we're about to hit the Q&A. I see a lot of questions already parked up in the Q&A feature, but I just wanted to highlight a few of the different resources that are available if you're still interested in this topic. I have these QR codes here, but I will also link them in the chat. We did a session with one of our MuleSoft ambassadors, who's also a community or a CloudHub SME. There was a great conversation, some similar content here. You can watch that back, that meetup. Yeah, really great conversation about the more, I guess, strategic and overall view of upgrading to CloudHub 2 and why you want to do that. And I also transcribed that into a blog. So if you'd rather read something, you can read a blog around that too. I will say this launch is imminent. We're not saying it's GA yet, this first VPC phase 1, but hopefully the first phase is coming out very soon. When that happens, there'll be a launch book available. There will also be a demo video available, and we'll of course have the recording of this meetup, which you can go back as well. So yeah, keep an eye out on the blog. That'll be the main area for content, and then we'll link that demo video. And then also in round 2, when we release the app upgrade, we're hoping to have a more detailed written guide that you can follow along if you want to have something to reference as you go through this upgrade process. And we should also have some really good Salesforce on Salesforce content for you around CloudHub 2 upgrades, and we're going to do some interviews around our own technology team, who are one of the big CloudHub customers that we have, our internal team. So yeah, look forward to that as well. And I think that is, that's everything. We can switch over to the Q&A. I can start reading them. I don't know. Sometimes Sabrina just magically appears as well at this point. I'm not sure. If not, I can just start reaming through them.
I am magically appearing.
She's appeared.
Awesome. Yeah, we have a ton of questions. So I'm just going to go through from the oldest to the newest. So from Ravi, we have, can we upgrade Mule runtime version as well while using CloudHub 2.0 upgrade tool?
Yes, you can. So like I mentioned, when you're deploying applications, you link a CloudHub 1 app with a CloudHub 2 app. We do a best effort clone of your configuration. However, you're not required to keep the same configuration. It can be a completely different application jar. You can use in fact, you can use the latest Mule runtime version in CloudHub 2.0, and then you can switch your traffic over. So yeah, it's not required to be on the same Mule runtime version. In fact, I think it's encouraged for you to upgrade your Mule runtime. If you're able to, change multiple variables at the same time, this might be a good time for you to upgrade both your platform and the Mule runtime version.
Awesome. Next question we have is from Govind. He says, we have 2 DLBs used within one VPC. I had seen CloudHub 2 last year, which did not support multiple ingress. Is that possible now?
No. So CloudHub 2 is every private space comes with one ingress. However, what we've noticed is customers do 2 DLBs for one VPC, mainly to achieve the internal external isolation, right? What you can do for that on CloudHub 2.0 is you can configure multiple endpoints. You can have an internal endpoint and an external endpoint for the same private space application in the same private space. And like I mentioned in our roadmap, this is one of the reasons we're adding support for vanity domains for internal endpoints. So it essentially allows you to create an equivalent setup with that one private space, one internal, one external, with vanity domains for both. However, we've also seen customers that want network level isolation, don't want to have it in the same VPC, same private space. Then you will have to create 2 private spaces essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I'm going to read through. I see that you've answered a few questions, so I'm just going to quickly read the question and answer so that in case folks didn't see it in the Q&A. So Roberto had asked, what about the vCores needed to deploy the CH2 app? Needs more resources to use this tool? And Ratisha, you had responded, when you create a private space from your VPC, you do not use up more vCores. When you start deploying apps into CH2, you will require vCores. If you have spare vCores, you can use those up. If you need more, you can work with your account team to enable vCores during the period of your migration. I saw there was actually another question from that related to this from Chris, and he said, do we need enough vCore entitlements to support migration, or do we get a temporary reprieve during migration to exceed entitlement while running the apps in both CH1 and CH2?
Yeah, I can answer that as well. What we've noticed is many of our customers have spare vCore entitlements, so you can use those vCores, you use up those vCores. However, if you are actually at your limit, right, with your CloudHub 1 vCores, then you will need more vCore entitlements if you want to do a blue-green upgrade. I mean, you can always do a if you don't want blue-green, then you can delete your CloudHub 1 apps, create a CloudHub 2 app equivalent, and manage it that way. But if you want to do a blue-green upgrade, we've seen many of our customers, working with their account teams to determine the duration of upgrades and then working on getting some vCore entitlements for that duration.
Great. And then another one that I see here, just because we only have 9 minutes left, so I just want to make sure we get to as many different ones as possible. From Waldes, he asks, is the MuleSoft CloudHub 2.0 upgrade tool available now with all of these features, or do we need to wait a bit?
Yeah, you need to wait a bit. Yeah, we were hoping that it will be available now, but very soon, like Aston mentioned, the VPC to private space is something that we're actively working on. So it should be there with you very soon. Yeah.
Great. And then another one related to the tool is this upgrade tool available for all plans like Titanium or Platinum?
Yes, upgrade tooling is not gated behind any entitlement. So upgrade tooling is available for everyone. So if you have a VPC in CloudHub 1.0, you will now see a new upgrade button, upgrade tab in Runtime Manager. You can leverage it. Yes, so you don't have to purchase the upgrade tool. It's available for everyone. We want to make it as easy as possible for everyone to make the transition.
Great. And then we have another question from Maria. She asked, after deleting the DLB, the ingress will take over the same domain previously used by the DLB, meaning will the customers be able to continue making the same requests as before, as if the application were still running solely on CloudHub 1?
Yes, that is our goal with the second phase. So yeah, first phase is all about carrying over network connections. Second phase is carrying over your CloudHub 1 URLs. So the ask would be you configure your vanity domains at the private space as well, and then at the app level ingress, right? For every application, you have the ingress tab on CloudHub 2. You can pick which endpoint you want to listen from for that application. You can pick the CloudHub 1 endpoint that you have configured. So once you've configured the same routing rules in both CloudHub 2 and CloudHub 1, when you're diverting traffic, the routing rules get reapplied at CloudHub 2. So you know if it's getting routed accurately to your application. And thereafter, when you delete the application and delete the DLB, traffic will start directly hitting the ingress for the same endpoint, same URL basically. So up until then, it will go through the DLB into the ingress. Once the DLB is deleted, directly hits the ingress.
Great. And then we have another question from Govind. He asked, is there a way to bulk migrate or maybe a set of apps in one go?
No, we are doing, it's going to be a per app migration. But what you could potentially do is if you have a CI/CD pipeline, like we will have APIs as well, right, to support this sort of linking from CloudHub 1 to CloudHub 2. But if you have a CI/CD pipeline, what you could do is you can create multiple applications in CloudHub 2 equivalent to that mean, all of your tens of application in CloudHub 1 while specifying an equivalent CH1 application. So you will be able to do bulk operations by scripting it, automating it through CI/CD. But we are not working on, as part of the upgrade tooling currently, we're not working on enabling bulk operations. It's still something that's targeted towards the developer persona that manages the individual app, not from a platform team standpoint. And mainly because every app is different, right? You might want to test your traffic. You might want to make app level configuration changes. So the bulk is not something that we are enabling beyond the CI/CD. Yeah.
And then Mariah asked a follow-up question. She asked, so for new CloudHub 2.0 APIs, we can use the same domain from CloudHub 1, even if the API was not there.
I don't know what it means when we say API was not there. No, if I understand it right, you need to have a CloudHub 1 API that's actually using that vanity domain on CloudHub 1, and then you create an equivalent in CloudHub 2. If you did not have a CloudHub 1 API that's equivalent to the CloudHub 2 API, then no, you will not be able to apply a vanity domain. Yeah, the vanity domain is something that is carried over on an app level basis.
Okay, and then we have another one from Ravi. He asked, what are mandatory optional prerequisites required to upgrade from VPC to private spaces?
We will be documenting all of this as part of our, when we actually GA this feature. But quickly can talk about a few of them, right? For mandatory, your VPC marked ineligible if you do not have sufficient IP space. It will be marked ineligible if you're using deprecated availability zones. If it's using legacy VPN, it will be marked ineligible. However, if you're using, say, VPC peering or direct connect, it's not ineligible. We warn you. So that's something that is an optional change. However, you need to be aware that once you switch over to the private space, you will not be able to work with MuleSoft support to update any of your routing configurations for peering or direct connect. So you will not be able to operate that anymore. So the only path after the upgrade will be for you to change your network connections, which will then also get applied to the underlying VPC. But those are the ones that we warn you about and don't necessarily mandate. There are a couple more, but we will be documenting those. Those are what I can think of at the top of my mind. Yeah.
Great. And then last question, because we're almost out of time. Waldes asked, what are the key release dates for the roadmap items listed above? Or listed today?
Yeah, I don't know if we can actually get into dates, but the first one, VPC to private space upgrade tooling, is something that we're actually looking at in Q4 this year. The rest of the roadmap items are all roadmap for next year for us. Hopefully in the first half next year, but you never know. Yeah.
Great. Okay, and then actually last one just came in, and then unfortunately, folks, we will have to finish Q&A. But how does CloudHub 2.0 ensure better application isolation compared to CloudHub 1.0?
Better application isolation is in CloudHub 2.0, you basically get container based application isolation, right? So you're not able to, you don't have to worry about anybody getting SSH access into your VPN. It's completely whatever you get from container based isolation, you get at the app level. Every replica is isolated from each other, every application is isolated. And then the network level isolation is where every private space gets its own ingress controller. So it's a dedicated network space for you. In CloudHub 1.0, it's VPC, and then you have to operate your own DLB and ingress controller. In CloudHub 2, it comes out of the box.
All right. Thank you so much. Before we go, I did see Govind had a question about Managed Flex Gateway, and I just wanted to say we will have an entire enablement session on that topic on January 23rd. So we will definitely be sending out the link once that is live. So if you want to learn more about that, that will be happening at the end of January. And with that, I want to say thank you so much.
One question that I see, which is, I think it's a useful question to answer, is what if we want to change the CIDR, increase the IPs while upgrading VPC to CloudHub 2 from Govind? So this is where the upgrade tooling is focused on a lift and shift, right? Like we're expecting that if you want to keep the same configuration, you can leverage the upgrade tooling. However, if you want to make configuration changes, for example, if you want to reduce the IP space or increase the IP space, then this is something that you will have to self-manage, where you create a private space. Essentially, you will have to copy over, but the upgrade tooling will not support this scenario.
Okay, awesome. Well, with that, thank you all so much. What a fantastic session. Astin, Ratisha, Amit, and Tanvir, thank you. And for those wanting the recording, we will be sharing it out later this week on YouTube, as well as on the same webpage that you used to sign into this event. All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.